Hey there, it is Mike S. Miller, as you well know. I am the comic book cover artist for the Game of Thrones series coming out through Random House and Dynamite Entertainment. But before I got into that, I know this image is very small, but I did these books here. The Hedge Knight series. The Hedge Knight, The Sworn Sword, and George R.R. Martin's The Mystery Knight as well. These were all prequel series to the Game of Thrones, the first novel. They take place about 90 years prior to the events in A Game of Thrones. But while I was doing that, I did this piece of artwork that you see on the screen here right now. This is Robert versus Rhaegar on the Trident, titled "And Rhaegar Died." This was, I believe, the first officially licensed lithograph done of the Game of Thrones series. I could be wrong. I don't remember any prior to that, and I'm sure if there was, someone will correct me. But I did this as a series of a limited edition number of images for with George. It was supposed to be the first part of 3. It was done in pencil and then colored in Photoshop. In 2000, I think I did this in 2003. So, it's a good long time ago. And it was for a very long time probably the most well-known piece of Game of Thrones art out there. It was, years and years and years before HBO finally picked up Game of Thrones and decided, and then, there was Game of Thrones art everywhere. It used to be that if you Googled Game of Thrones and artwork, you'd probably see my stuff on the first couple pages. I don't know how it is now. I haven't done it in a while. Yeah, I'm not the only guy in the game anymore. There are now. I mean, it was me. I think Amok. Is it Amok? No, I could be wrong. There was another guy that was doing a bunch of the art, like all the individual characters. There was another guy doing a bunch of the individual characters as paintings. Yeah, so going to Google now, you can click on A Song of Ice and Fire artwork, and it's just gobs and gobs of other people, and almost all of it looks like it's based on the show, not the books. Well, some of it looks like it's based on the books, but yeah, when the show came up, it became, it sucked up all the oxygen. Everyone thought, Kit Harington should look like Jon Snow. Jon Snow should not look like Kit Harington. I mean, he's well cast and all that stuff, and it's fun, but he's not described like that in the books. But regardless, let's get on with the news. See what's going on here. Game of Thrones. This is on CNET.com. Game of Thrones final season debut may be later in 2019. Always good news for those who like to wait. Winter is still coming slowly, so don't get the dragons too excited. But there's also news on the first prequel's plot. There is our beloved Dany Targaryen. Fans may have to wait a while to see Daenerys and the Game of Thrones crew. Game of Thrones fans are used to being patient. Let's just go back up here. Game of Thrones fans are used to being patient. In addition to waiting for George R.R. Martin to reveal when his 6th book, Winds of Winter, will be released, fans also don't know the exact date of when the show's 8th and final season will hit HBO. But according to a report released Saturday, it might be later than we thought. Joe Bauer, the show's visual effects supervisor, told the Huffington Post that the final season would be eligible for the 2020 Primetime Emmy Awards, not the 2019 honors. That hurts. That hurts. Come on. In 2 years, we'll be eligible for the Season 8 work, Bauer said, which we're just beginning now. If the final season were to qualify for the 2019 Emmys, the bulk of the episodes would need to have aired by May 31st, 2019. Oh, I understand. Okay. So they can still come out in 2019, but they would have had to come out like basically, well, gosh, they could still do that. It's only 6 episodes. That's a month and a half. You could put them out in March, April, May. Or even start it in April. Heck, you could start it in May. It would still be the bulk of the episodes. Looks like we're waiting until summer. The final season only has 6 episodes, although it's been reported each one is a feature film length. So that's fantastic. It seems logical that HBO won't show any episodes until after May anyways, since Bauer also said his crew would be, quote, toiling away on Season 8 until May of 2019. 2019? Well, it'll be here sooner than we think. Winter is coming. And then after winter, spring, and then Game of Thrones. Yeah. HBO's president of programming, Casey Bloys, said in July that this season will debut in the first half of 2019, which could still be the case with this news, but it will be cutting it close. Season 7 premiered on July 16th, 2017, while previous season all premiered in April or March. So yeah, looks like we're going to get a summer launch, which should be good for San Diego Comic-Con, if they're going to be there this next year. HBO had no comment on the show's Season 8 release date, so it is all still tentative, people. Bauer also revealed that the first Game of Thrones prequel will begin shooting at least the pilot, in February. Numerous prequels are being worked on, but this first one to advance to actual plans is about the history of the terrifying White Walkers, also known as the Others. That's cool. Alright, I'm happy to hear that. The White Walkers. Yeah, again, all those books I showed you before, the Game of Thrones stuff, the Dunk and Egg series, not going to happen. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I wish it would, but let us not dwell. So, this is something that I thought they should have done in the show. They should have done, if you notice throughout the entire series, you've only ever seen one flashback besides Bran's visions. Bran's visions don't technically count as flashbacks. It was a flashback to Cersei being told by, what was her name, Mag the Frog or something like that, the old wizardess, enchantress, the fortune teller, that told her that her children would all die and she would drown in tears for them or something like that. I don't remember the exact wording. But had they just done some really cool snippet flashbacks, this is one scene I know everyone who ever read the books was dying to see, would be Robert in his prime, with those glorious antlers on his helm, smashing the rubies in Rhaegar's chestplate. Can you go get JoJo? Smashing the chestplate of rubies. You see his ruby-encrusted dragon on his chestplate, and that's why they called it the Ruby Ford after that. Children, you just used to climb into the river to search for these rubies that were broken off of Rhaegar's chestplate. Rhaegar, again, being, I believe, the brother of Daenerys. And this is the event that reshaped the world, and this is what in Hollywood you'd call the inciting incident of the entire plot line of the Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire series. And so, unfortunately, we did not get to see that, but here you have at least one depiction of what that scene may have looked like, drawn by myself. I do have these available, the lithographs, for purchase. I should put them up on my web store and put a link to it. The link to my web store is in the description, as is the link to my comic book on Indiegogo, LONESTAR, LONESTARcomic.com. So, anyways, please do like, subscribe if you want to see more of my artwork related to the Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire. I am also planning to start a sort of a roundtable chat, maybe once or twice a week at night, called The Night's Watch. Myself and a handful of other Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire enthusiasts will be delving into various discussions, fan theories, speculative stuff, the history of Game of Thrones, the history of Westeros, the history of the entire world, and hope to see you there. Please do subscribe so you do get notifications for that, and ring that bell and hit that like button before you leave. I appreciate it. Valar Morghulis.